The content of this meeting is being sent to a third party. Got it.
Perfect.
Oh
Video
no.
unavailable. Go home. Okay. This video is private. Thank you. Let's see how I can make the video not private. Switch account. It's all those fun things, yeah, that just like, hey, you're set, we got it. And then they're like, nope.
But wait, where do I see it? I'm gonna go find it.
That's what I'm looking for. Sorry if people are watching us live and does it say
Trying to
this meeting is
troubleshoot.
being live streamed? Yeah, it is. Okay. Live stream on the YouTube. Hold on, let me see. Subscriptions. Oh, yeah, we are live.
Oh, scary.
We're
Where
live.
where
We're
is
on
that
there.
though? What?
Yeah, it's on YouTube
Oh, on YouTube.
under the
Then what do I look
Kaho'olahui
to
Ole
find
Kona.
it?
Yeah, under the Kaho'olahui. So, everybody, thank you, everybody who's watching us navigate through this fun times. I'm just going to pin Nicole.
Oh, yay.
All right. Okay, so it looks like we are all set. Just let me make sure it's still live. It's still live. So we are up
Yay.
and going. It's also going to
Okay.
be recorded for us, for you. I gave you share. So, we're
Perfect.
all
Perfect.
set. And this meeting
Okay,
is,
then I'm going to
yeah, help yourself.
share my screen and away we go. And hopefully you can see it okay. Do you see it okay?
Perfect.
Winner. Okie dokie. Wait, where did my other screen go? This one? This one. Yay! Okay. Technology. We can do it, yeah? Okay, so hello everybody, and thank you for being with us tonight. We're gonna go over our presentation, ʻAipono and Piko to Piko. Oh, wait, did it go? Nope. There we go. Haha. So tonight's webinar is part of a series of webinars we are hosting for our Feast grant. Paulo was the recipient of an Oregon Food Bank Community Feast Award. FEAST stands for Food, Education, Agriculture, Solutions Together. And according to the FEAST manual, this is a program that provides a menu of community organizing methods to help communities act to improve their local food systems. A feast is an opportunity for participants to engage in an informed, facilitated discussion about their food systems and begin working towards solutions that will help build a more equitable and resilient local food system. So that was taken from their manual. And so as I was sharing, this is a series. So we first kicked off in March with Lealoha doing Paulo's story, background, history, and then the story of Haloa. Then we had John, Paulo's director two, in April sharing about Native Hawaiian health and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander health. Unfortunately, we skipped the environmental food justice one, but tonight we are wrapping up our series with me. But let's see. So here's a little agenda of tonight's discussion. We'll have some introductions. I'll introduce myself. I'll recap Kalo since we already did that. Also, I'll introduce Health and Public Policy, one of the committees within Kalo. Talk a little bit about ʻAipono. We'll talk about Piko to Piko and our mala and the evaluation project we're doing there. I will recap and then we will go into question and answers if anybody has any questions. In the meantime, this is very, very informal. So if you like jump in, you have questions, just stop me at any time and I am glad to address those questions. But you might be wondering, who you? Who am I? So in my career path, we like to do what is a positionality statement, big word for who you, basically. A little bit about me. I am originally from Waianae. I left Waianae before we knew had one Okina in the Waianae word, so it was just Waianae, not Waianae. But so I left in the 80s, went to Las Vegas. I didn't like that place. Not a great place for kids. Then I went to San Diego, did my did a bachelor's degree there. Took me about a decade, but whatever, no one's counting. Then I finally got to go back home to Manoa and go to UH, where I was part of the first cohort for the Native Hawaiian and Indigenous Health, Public Health MPH. Since the cost of living is so fabulous there, we stuck around. Okay, not really. I left 2 weeks after graduation and found my home in the Pacific Northwest in Olympia, Washington, which I have been here ever since and have joined the iReach team at Washington State University and was recruited by Dr. Kaimi Sinclair to help with a Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander heart health study. So I had the privilege of serving my community that way. And then recently was added to a study looking at Alzheimer's and dementia-related diseases. I'm also one of the newest board members of Kalo. So this year I joined the Kalo board as director number 4, who I oversee. No, that's not right English. But anyways, I oversee the Health and Public Policy Committee, which I'll bring up later, and also ecosystems. But a little bit about Kalo, since we did already go over this, just a reminder, Kalo was established in 2019. They are a 501(c)(3) organization that works to bring awareness to the importance of Kalo, or Taro in English, and Haloa, who we see as our first ancestor. In remembrance of our Native Hawaiian communities back home and on the continent, thus creating an opportunity to re-indigenize and reconnect our people to the land and our cultural identity and values. The Hawaiian civic clubs in general were established in 1918 by our late monarchy, excuse me. And it was really a movement that it was the first and the oldest of its kind for the Native Hawaiian community. And it is a nonprofit organization and also serves as a coalition of independent Hawaiian civic clubs throughout Hawaii and on the continent. So as we dive into a little bit more health and public policy, I mentioned that Kalo has some committees. So committees at Kalo kind of help advise some of the work that's going on there that we're doing in the community. And here's the committee description for the health and public policy. It's very wordy, but it encompasses a lot. So just to not leave anything out, I'm going to go ahead and read it. It advocates and monitors programs for health education, health services, mental health, nutrition, persons with disabilities, geriatrics, drug and drug abuse, obesity, and other aid to Native Hawaiian kupuna, advocates and monitors health cost of health insurance, advocates and monitors programs related but not limited to Hanai, foster care, incarceration, and rehabilitation of Native Hawaiians. This committee is newer, so we are still building, and in hope someday we will be active in many of those items that I just listed. But for now, I'm super excited to share a little bit more about ʻAipono and the health and public policy main focus, Piko to Piko. So ʻAipono, in literal translation, would be something close to balanced eating. If we think about what we used to eat, it was very different than our current plate. This picture here, we have somebody pounding kalo and probably gonna make it into pa'iai and then turn it into poi or something similar, um, which was majority of our plate, which has very much changed when you look at our current plate or what was my current plate a few weeks back at one of the restaurants up here. This one is it's good. It is a good plate. but it's not really reflective of what we used to eat. There is the items we used to eat in there, but not in the balanced way that we used to have our meals. The native Hawaiian diet or ancient Hawaiian diet or whatever you want to call it or Google it used to consist mostly of carbohydrates. And no, those carbohydrates were not rice and mac salad, though those are quite yummy. They were typically taro, sweet potato, yams, and breadfruit, and the rest of our plate was less than a quarter of fat and protein combined. But how do we even try to get back to where we were? Many of us are no longer in Hawaii. Actually, 50% of the population of Native Hawaiians live outside of Hawaii as of 2020. And we don't have, taro patches in our backyard, or it's really hard to get some of the supplies sometimes. And before just a few years ago, I would have never even thought that it was even possible to grow kalo away from home until I met my new friends and family at kalo. But before I move from this slide, I just wanted to point out this was some research that was done by the late Kukuni Blaisdell. Dr. Blaisdell was definitely a pioneer in this field, and did a lot of research with Native Hawaiian health and heart health and looked at our diet. Genius man. Really, the visual is just showing like how, around 1778, yes, that seems like a long time ago, what our diet was, what our plate breakdown was. It was those things I mentioned, those carbohydrates, the taro, the yam, fish, shellfish. We are getting our fat and proteins from very limited items. It wasn't like we eat now. So now we have, rice, potatoes, and beans and noodles, and we're getting our fat and protein from sources that are not as nutritious as they used to be. But that's why we are introducing Pico to Pico. So Pico to Pico is a culturally grounded, community-led initiative to grow kalo in the community and in home gardens and strengthen cultural connectedness for Native Hawaiians that are living on the continent, away from home. Maybe was never even home, and you're like first generation, I don't know, continent, whatever. We're providing this this thought that many never actually considered. But as we learned in our first webinar, Kalo is the Piko or center of life and our ancestor that we trace our lineage to. And it's really the base of many traditional foods. And for over the past 3 years, this will be our fourth, Kalo has invited communities to participate in the Mala Kalo, sharing Hawaiian culture, language, and values. Through the cultivation and consumption of kalo, we honor Hawaiian identity and way of life and create new relationships with land away from home. This research really seeks to understand how kalo can benefit us. Like, what role does it play in our life here? We really anticipate that this will promote health and well-being for generations to come. I would hope that we would go home soon, but those prices aren't dipping down at all. They just keep going up. So this is our way to connect, to reconnect to a culture and restore those practices away from home while we live in diaspora. I also want to bring attention to this lovely visual I have here. It was the first publication from what we're doing, and it's super exciting to see this because there is just minimal resources out there for growing kalo on the continent. And if 50% or more of Native Hawaiians live away from Hawaii, we probably need more of these resources. So just putting that out there. Everyone involved in Pico to Pico must put their hands in the dirt. It is required. So coming to our mala, coming together to celebrate, learn, and practice our Hawaiian language and culture are really what drives our mala days. We begin super early and people come out and it's so amazing. We start with a welcoming, we acknowledge the work that we're doing, and there are strict protocols to follow in the mala. you have to recognize that your mana, your energy needs to be in a good place, and that's super important because what you bring is going into those plants. And so we want everybody to be in the right headspace for what we're trying to do to not negatively impact anything that we've already created. One of the happenings going on at the Mala is our rock wall, or as I learned more of our Hawaiian language, which I didn't get the privilege of learning as a youth. Uh, wait, I might butcher it, but I'm gonna try. Uhau humu pohaku. So it is a traditional dry set masonry. We use nothing to keep these stones together. It was really like working with puzzle pieces to create this beautifully constructed wall that typically went around our heiaus or very sacred places that were ceremonial or just things that needed to be, enclosed or I mean, we could have a whole webinar on this, but that's not our mission tonight. Just doing a little introduction. So I'll go a little bit more into the pictures that I have on this slide. This is an opportunity for us to share Hawaiian language. It's super fun because for me, Hawaiian language is kind of scary only because I went to Las Vegas. Everybody thought I spoke weird. I worked really good on sounding like MTV. So as I retrace my steps and try to unsound like MTV and actually learn Hawaiian language, these are great opportunities for people like me or people who have never had any introduction to Hawaiian language. So here we learned the rock wall names, or I'm sorry, the different types of rocks that we're looking to build the wall. And what was really fun is that we play games. So we actually played telephone. We play these games to try to learn the words in a different way, not that regular, everyday, like sit in a classroom kind of learn, because that's not how we learned. We didn't, that's no, we didn't learn that way. But here we have a couple pictures of our greenhouse next to the kalo that was growing last year. You can see on the picture on the left, going towards the back there. And then that's the beginning of the wall. On the right is just a close-up of the wall. And it's challenging. You have to get those rocks in and make sure they're situated in a good way so that they fit and they're not going to be disturbed. But little did we know when we came back this year, all those that overgrow from the weeds and nature, we had a lot of cleaning up to do, but that's okay. That's part of why we do this. Another reason why we do this is this guy right here. Actually, it might be a mama. So this mama and her cute little babies like to cruise through our mala at the Oregon Food Bank and eat our leaves and disturb our property. So it's really unfortunate that we have these pests. Okay, not pests, because they're really cute, yeah. But you get Bambi. Bambi like come play with our wall and eat our food. So to deter Bambi from come eating our kalo, we're trying to put that wall up. But it is definitely it's a labor of love. But it's great because it's really a something that all ages can do. And as I watched it happen and unfold at the mala, it was a really cool thing to see, a 7-year-old, like the one standing behind me, help, sort the rocks. You have the kupuna who are telling us what to do with the rocks. And it's this whole like lifespan of learning. Sorry, working on not having interruptions. Can I help you? Oh, yes, we started. We're live. Oh, yeah. Okay, bye.
How long is it?
Oh, a little bit longer. I'll be right with you. Okay, bye. But at the mall, we're also doing a evaluation project. So programs happen, programs happen by funding, right? And as I mentioned in the beginning, this presentation is a product of our Feast Award. And this award helps with planning and dreaming of how we can improve our food system. To show that programs are doing what they set out to do, you'd conduct evaluation projects. So according to the CDC, an effective program evaluation is a systematic way to improve and account for public health actions by involving procedures that are useful, feasible, ethical, and accurate. Let's have those last four words soak in. Feasible, ethical, and then together with column members and Pacific University, we're conducting a longitudinal evaluation project to identify if this program that we implemented is indeed doing what we hope it does. Because, you want to make sure the program you set out to do is working. Or if not, you gotta, tweak them a little bit. But as we look at our project, we're really trying to assess the reach, the experience, how aware people are of what we're trying to do, what we're distributing, and some of the research and training goals. So we look at attendance, frequency, participation. There's a lot of moving pieces. And we want to also evaluate the participant satisfaction, right? Because without the participants in the mala, we don't have anybody helping us with the mala. And so it's super important that they want to be doing what they're doing. Another thing that we're also looking at is how can we develop this so we can have additional community garden sites. We also have a second one at Pacific University that the students tend to. I haven't been there yet, but I will at some point. And so we're also, the last thing we're looking at, well, we're looking at many things, but can't share all the things. But we are looking at, who's going home with what? Are they able to have plants at home? Are they having leaves go home with them? And what are they doing with them? So these type of projects are super helpful in getting funding. These programs, unfortunately, just don't happen. That would be great. But government and other private funders like to know that these programs that they're investing in are really doing what they're intended to do and helping the community. So if you notice, though, on the slide under Pacific, the phrase data usage agreement is there. Just a little touch on that. A data usage agreement is, or DUA for short, is super important when collecting any data, doing research or an evaluation project. A DUA answers those questions like who, what, when, where, how. Like who is collecting the data? What are we collecting? Where is the data going? When are we collecting the data? And how will we be collecting this data? It's an agreement that both entities come together with before anything even starts. So you know what you're doing, there's no confusion, and it's done with respect to preserve the data that you're getting from those people. We talk about this because historically there has been questionable behavior in research and evaluation projects due to the typical researcher was white academic with a preconceived agenda that was not typically guided by the community or had very little input or sometimes no input from the community that's being researched or evaluated. And that's not very helpful for the community. So it's really important to get them involved. And in the previous slide, I also mentioned who was doing the evaluation project and mentioned it was being done by Native Hawaiians and for Native Hawaiians. So our team consists of Native Hawaiian community organizers and advocates, Native Hawaiian speakers, not me because I'm still learning, cultural practitioners, and Native Hawaiians that are living on the continent. Though I did mention Native Hawaiian folks lead many roles, we are welcoming to all peoples. This is not a place to exclude, all are welcome. And we share our culture while we're living in diaspora and trying to figure it out. I'd like to share this quote by Dr. Linda Tuivai Smith. And it really talks about what I just said and how when Indigenous people become the researchers and then not merely the research, the activity of research is transformed. Questions are framed differently, priorities are ranked differently, problems are defined differently, and people participate on different terms. I feel like so rewind, when I mentioned in the beginning that I started with Washington State University, I was on a health study and we'd recruit Pacific Islanders and Native Hawaiians. we had expanded our team and added other team members, and it was really interesting to see how successful certain team members were with recruiting their population of, our population that we're looking for. And I had pretty good luck, not to toot my own horn, but when it shifted and there were other folks not from our not Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander doing that recruitment, it was really hard to get people involved. There's just that level of trust or understanding that sometimes may not be there, but hopefully we can teach others how to be appropriate and conduct research in our spaces that are safe and healthy and make us want to do research, because typically, as I was saying, it hasn't always been that way. So I can't believe I've already talked for about 25 minutes, but in a little recap, Paulo, again, Hawaiian Civic Club in Oregon, serves Oregon and Southwest Washington State. The Health and Public Policy Committee lives in Kalo and houses Piko to Piko. We talked about ʻAipono and how balanced eating is so important. I feel like that segment we could really go on for days to talk about, because there's so much, and there's so much in what went into those systems that created that balanced eating. I mean, we had land divisions that were created just to be able to create our food. We talked about Pico to Pico, our community-led program to reconnect Native Hawaiians with their culture, language, and food while living in diaspora away from home. And I don't think I mentioned diaspora, the word. If you don't know that word, that means scattered away from your homeland. At least that's what Google Dictionary tells me. So when you think of that scattered away, like that doesn't sound like a good thing. It's not like we were like, hey, we're gonna go to California because we want to. No, nobody says that. Well, I mean, you might because you want to go to Disneyland, but that's different. Then you want to go home. Not like I wanted to go to Las Vegas, trust me. Um, and then we learned about the Feast. Feast is the program through the Oregon Food Bank in Portland. Um, and a little plug, we have community mala days. So if you want to see what I just said in action, we have our next mala day coming up on June 8th. We have one 2 weeks after that. We have multiple ones going on throughout the summer, all the way up into roughly October, depending on how the weather goes. But again, that is at the Oregon Food Bank in Portland at the Unity Farm, and that is where our mala is. As I wrap up, I want to give a huge thank you to all the community partners that I didn't mention, which I should have mentioned because there's many of them. But also a big, huge thank you to CJ, who is our food justice coordinator and mala extraordinaire. All of our community partners, again, there's no way we could do this without you. All the Kahlo staff and board, and most importantly, the Kahlo members and community who show up at 7 o'clock in the morning to get in the dirt and learn and share. Because none of this would be possible without them. And oh yes, and our calendar is posted on the website, so just another plug. We do the community workday in the morning. We get in there, we pull weeds, we grow stuff, we hang out, we learn language, and then we eat, my favorite part. And we share stories, and it's a great time. So, that was a whole lot in a half an hour, and I'm really excited to share that. So if there's any questions, which I don't know because I'm just looking at my screen or my two screens, please reach out. That's my email down there on the bottom. Next to my little guy on the right who was interrupting us not too long ago. He loved it. He didn't love the idea of waking up at 7 in the morning, but after he knew what we were doing, he totally loved it. And it's a great time. So 7 to 70, come on out, or younger or older, whatever. We're there for you. But Lay or anybody, did you see anything in the chat box or online or this virtual world while
Well, I
I
was just gonna
rambled on?
share. Nicole's email is nicolele.ellison@kalohcc.org. not the extra dot. I just wanted to share that
Oh
just
my
in case
bad.
she was trying to slide it in without having the
Oh
email
no,
me,
because
but not really. No.
oh yeah, email me, but then it's not gonna get to me. So, or you can just email Nicole at Kahlo, and then it'll go to the other Nicole because we randomly get two Nicoles from Y&I at Kahlo. Isn't that
Yeah.
fantastic? At least I thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. How do I stop sharing?
No, this is
Oh
awesome.
hey,
This is,
oh
yeah.
that's just me now. Hello.
Yeah. This is definitely an awesome way to wrap up the series. Again, you said mahalo to our partners and our collaborators and all the people who make it happen. We have mala days happening every Wednesday at the Oregon Food Bank. Pacific University is getting ready to wake up their mala, and we will have mala weekends throughout the year. And I think this year it's actually going to be probably to November. So just a side note with our taro, we are also growing manoa lettuce, and we had a harvest last week. Manoa lettuce went home at our ulana at our weaving event. So that was super awesome. A lot of people were so excited. And so that's the ʻAipono conversation of being in community and having a mala and what we're trying to identify how growing our foods here impacts us. So we're also growing some other greens. We're growing garlic, and we're hoping to grow other items that feed, create our foods that we love. So we definitely want to see out in the mala. If you have ideas, please Helemai. This is recorded. We will repost it. It's on our YouTube and all of those fun things. But I think we're awesome. Yes. So mahalo,
My
mahalo,
my
Nicole.
blurred.
I'm gonna stop our recording.